Welcome to Tenacity with Sonia C., the podcast where we dive deep into stories behind success, uncovering lessons learned and the insights gained by leaders and innovators in the business world. I'm your host, Sonia, and today's guest joining us is Richard Clark. Richard is a pioneer in the field of workplace happiness and former CEO of Secret Source. Join us as we explore Richard's journey from leading an IT company with a unique focus on team and client happiness to sharing his insights with the world. Get ready to uncover the secrets to building happier, more productive teams right here. Let's get started. Hi, Richard. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
Hello, I'm very well. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm excited to get into today's episode. So to start, can you tell me when you wake up in the morning, what brings you joy and makes you happy?
Wow. Okay. What bakes me joy? Okay. So I'm pretty organized in the morning. As soon as the alarm goes off, I've sort of trained myself to get out of bed instantly, and I go and I go and do exercise in the morning. So I just do a workout or go for a run or something in the morning, and just that time starting off the day doing something usually outside. I live in the Canary Islands, so we can be outside pretty much all year. Um, that brings me joy, I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love it. So you ran an IT company that its main KPIs were team and client happiness. What
Yeah.
drove you to run the business with that model, and like what drove you to get there?
Okay. So before I opened the company, I've been working. I've been running teams in India for about 5 or 6 years, and it just wasn't a very nice experience for me or for the teams or for my clients. And I just thought it could be done better.
Mm,
And I'd always been fascinated by this concept of happiness myself. I'd been trying to. I when I was a kid, my parents had a lovely company, and I always wanted a company like that. And I sort of had this theory that if I could create a company where everybody was happy, right, then they would do all the things that these Indian companies weren't doing. They'd collaborate better, they'd innovate more, they'd talk more with each other. And so that's why I did it. It was, yeah, because I thought it was, if I did that, then we'd just do better work. That was my theory.
okay. So how do you balance the need for profitability and business success with prioritizing team happiness?
Okay, so first thing, nobody will be happy if you're not profitable and you can't pay them at the end of the month, right? So there has to be a balance. I think what I'm trying to say is that, well, for us, it was actually our number one KPI. So any decision we made, will it make the team happy? Will it make our clients happy? And that came above the profitability side.
Mm,
Now, I understand that's going to be really difficult for most companies to understand. So I think you just have to have it as a KPI in there. Will it be profitable? Yes. Will it bring you growth? Yes. Will it make our team happy? And it's just something you need to talk about. I think that's, yeah.
okay, so what happens, like you can't always make everybody happy. So how do you overcome that when you're trying to build a culture of happiness?
Yeah, that is very true. You can't make everybody happy, but you just have to have it in the back of your mind.
Mm,
So now we've made, like, there was must have been 6 years ago. Our most profitable client made our team unhappy. It was not, he wasn't a bad guy. It was just the way he worked, and our team just didn't enjoy working on that project.
mm,
And we tried everything to make him happy. We really tried everything. And we were sat in a management meeting one week, and I was coming up with new suggestions. I was saying, look, we need to try this. And our head project manager at the time, who's now our CEO, she said to me, look, we have to get rid of this client because whatever we do, our team won't be happy.
mm,
And then she said, if we don't get rid of this client, you have to stop saying that happiness is the most important thing, because it isn't, because profit is clearly more important to you. And at that point I went, you've got me there. You're right. And so, yeah. So, yeah, I can't remember what the question is now, but
Well, I was saying, how do you balance? But here's the thing,
yeah.
right? I get what you're saying, but at the end of the day, you go into business to be profitable and pay the bills. So
Hmm.
how do you fire a client and or make the decision to say we're not going to work with this client? That could have a huge effect on your business.
It can do. Yeah, yeah, obviously. Now, I see, my personal view is that if you have, if your only goal is to make as much money as possible, you
Hmm.
won't be the best company that you can be. If your goal is, if you have a real purpose, a real why, and you stick to that, in my opinion, the money will come later, and you'll be much happier along the journey, and your staff will be a lot happier along the journey. Now, obviously, there are times when you can't make everybody happy all the time, but if you just try and balance it, I
Mm,
think the end result is much better. You'll be much happier as a business owner. You'll be much happier.
okay.
Yeah,
So as a business owner, trying to
yeah,
make everybody happy, is that
yeah.
exhausting? Or what was the effort that you had to put in? And did it take a toll on you at any point?
I don't think so. At the beginning, when we started the company, we didn't know what made people happy. And that was difficult because we were trying a lot of things and they didn't work. Just the typical things. We bought hammocks for our
Mm,
balcony. We provided free breakfasts, and it wasn't really pushing the needle. But once we understood the real things that make people happy in work, purpose, feeling safe, part of a community, then you feel more in control of what you're doing. Once you have an understanding of what you're doing and how to do it, then no, it doesn't take a toll. It's actually pretty rewarding, in
okay,
my
fair.
experience. Yeah.
Um, so um, leads me to my next question.
Yeah.
What happens? You know that saying, one rotten potato or apple
Yeah.
can rotten the. So what happens, like especially now, and I'm not going to say like this is rotten, but
Hmm.
now we have this awareness of mental health, and
Yeah.
people are struggling, especially like now since COVID. So what happens when you try your best but you just have maybe a individual or some individuals that just no matter what you do they can't be happy,
Hmm.
and they start taking the team down with them?
Okay, so there's a couple of things there. So people have different levels of happiness. Some people might naturally be a 6 out of 10. Other people might be an 8 out of 10. We measure happiness every week, and we see some people are usually threes. Some people we measure out of five. Some people are usually fours. So you have to bear that in mind. No one is going to be happy all the time, and some people are going to be sort of mid level all the time. You just have to accept that. Now, when you have a bad apple,
Mhm.
right? Yeah, the we've had a couple in our time. And yeah, my advice in that situation is, if once they start dragging the team down, it's time they have to go. And we find it difficult to ask people to leave, but you'll find that when they do, everyone else is happier. Yeah, that's usually the reaction. They usually
I
say thank
understand.
you. Yeah.
So in your experience, what are some of the common misconceptions about workplace happiness, and how do you address them?
Okay, I suppose the main one is a bigger salary will make you happier, right?
Mm, yeah.
That's the main thing. I'm gonna I'm gonna be happier when I earn this salary. That's and that is true a little bit. If you feel you're being underpaid, if you feel your colleagues or people in other companies at the same level you are being paid more than you, then you're going to be unhappy because of that. But in general, there are feeling part of a team,
Mm.
feeling a sense of purpose will actually have more effect on your happiness than a bigger salary. Yeah. This is all relative, because if you're being paid under the minimum wage or you haven't got enough
Mm,
This is assuming that you've got you can afford the basic things in life. Yeah, your
right.
basic needs are covered. Yeah.
Okay. That's a good start.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
what role do leaders play in fostering a culture of happiness within their teams? And what advice do you have for leaders who want to prioritize this aspect in their organizations?
Okay, so in my opinion, I think it's not the responsibility of the leaders in a company to make everybody happy. They can't do that. You cannot be expected to. Everyone has their own situations, their own histories. But I do think it is the responsibility of the leaders to create an environment where everyone can be happy if they want to be. Okay. And I think that's really important. That's a safe a safe culture where they feel safe to speak their mind, where they feel included, where they feel part of a team, etc., etc.
So,
And yeah,
okay, sorry, go ahead.
and yeah, and so I'm assuming your next question is how do they do that?
Yes.
Okay, so it's. So I think there's just like three steps. The first thing you have to understand what actually makes people happy,
Mhm.
right? There are depends who you speak to, but according to the US Surgeon General, there's sort of 5 areas. That's you've got to feel safe at work, you've got to feel you have control over your workplace, you've got to feel part of a community, that's super important. Sense of purpose and that you're going to grow in the company. You've got to understand that those are the 5. And then you've got to understand what your team is actually like and what your culture's like. You might already be ticking a couple of those boxes.
Mm.
And you say, but my team, they don't feel that they're going to grow in our company. They don't feel they've got any promotion opportunities. And you can work on that. So yeah, just being aware of what makes people happy and what you're already doing well and what you need to improve.
Mhm.
That's a really good start.
So, on the same subject, what about companies that are just starting up? They don't have an
Mm.
HR department. They've never really done anything like this. Do you have any advice for how they can get started so that they're already setting up their companies with this happiness, team happiness in mind?
Yeah, the same thing, I think. Just understand what it is that will make your team happier, right? So one of the things that we focused on really at the beginning was community. We built a really, really, really strong community. And our develop we had to develop lots of developers in our company, and they were best friends. They all went out together by themselves on a Saturday night and stuff like that.
Mm.
But after about a year, maybe 2 years, we sent out a questionnaire, and one of the questions was, "Do you see yourself here in a year's time?" Right? And most of the staff said no.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly. Right. And we thought, wow, everyone's happy. They're having lots of fun at work.
you would assume.
Exactly. And so we dug into it and we asked everybody why they answered that question that way. And they said, because I don't see any future here. I don't know how I'm going to get promoted. I don't know how I'm going to get more salary. And we realized we'd completely neglected that whole side of the business. We hadn't no career development, no training, no promotion opportunities for everyone. So yeah, so if you're a startup, understand what it is that makes just understand those 5 areas and just make sure you're covering them. It's really because with startups you tend to have a lot of purpose. You understand why you're doing it. Really good community, but you might be missing the other areas.
So
Yeah.
I think what you're saying is, just because people seem like they're having fun at work doesn't mean they're
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So happiness is really difficult. One people ask me that what does happiness mean, right?
Well,
And
I was going
so
to ask you that.
it is a difficult one, honestly. So I sort of think it as like you can be happy. I've had a lovely meal. I've gone out with some friend. That makes me happy. You got that short-term boost, right? Um, that's important. That's the fun bit at work, enjoying what you're doing. But underneath, there's this sort of level of contentment that you have with your life, and that's the sort of general level of happiness that I'm talking about. And that's what you can do as a business owner. You can change that general level of happiness that they have in the company, and then you can add it with little boosts during the day by giving them interesting works, having parties and stuff like that.
Interesting.
Yeah,
You're
does that make
giving,
sense?
yeah, I know I'm listening to you and I'm thinking about some things that I could implement
Okay.
to sort of I'm already thinking like, when you hire someone new, one of the ways that you could implement that right away is in their 3-month review, give them a questionnaire and ask them about those types of questions to see what their level of happiness, or even, someone new is going to give you a very different perspective than someone who's been around for a long time. And I think that would be refreshing as well, right?
Yeah, and you just keep an eye on it. So a couple of years ago, a developer left us, right? And it doesn't happen very often. And he came back into the office a few weeks later, and he was having lunch with us. And we said, "How's the new job?" He said, "Oh, it's amazing." He said, "I've been given this 2-year plan, and in a year's time, I'm going to be doing this, and in 2 years, I'll be heading my own team." And that was what was important to that person, right? Really knowing that. And but on the other hand, that might not be even slightly important to someone else. So
Right.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, okay. I like that. That makes sense.
yeah.
Um,
Cool.
can you share some specific strategies or practices for a secret source implemented? Sorry, let me ask you that again. Can you
Yeah.
share some specific strategies or practices secret source implemented to prioritize team happiness, and how did these strategies evolve over time?
Okay, so we've done lots of things, right? Lots and lots of things. So I'm writing a blog at the moment, and at the moment I've got a list of over 50 things that I can
Okay,
remember
maybe,
that.
maybe just three or four.
Yeah. Some of them are tiny. Some of them were like moving the coffee machine to somewhere else in the office so people could go and hang around and make friends while making coffee instead of just going and get one and sitting back at their desk. Tiny things like that. But I think one of the best ones that explains what we do is, do you know what psychological safety is? Or
I've
do you?
heard of it, yes.
Right. Okay. Psychological safety, like, is critical. It's the feeling you when you're in a team, it's the feeling of safety you have, that you're able to ask questions to other people in your team members. You're able to challenge them. You're able to make suggestions, all without fear of someone criticizing you or going, "Oh, that's a silly question," right? It's that feeling
Mhm.
of safety. Right. Now, Google, about 10 years ago, Google did a big study to find what were their most important features in their highest performing teams, right?
Mhm.
And they found that psychological safety was actually the most important characteristic of their higher than experience, higher than age, higher than how well the team got on. It was psychological safety. And so we do a lot of work to make sure everyone feels safe in our office. Now, just to give you an example, we had a new developer start with us just before lockdown, right? She was super shy, like really, really shy.
Mhm.
Um, and one of the ways to measure psychological safety is to see how much they contribute in meetings. If they don't say anything, it tends to mean they don't feel safe to speak up.
Oh,
Yeah. So, so what we did was we tried to create an environment where she felt safe to contribute. So initially what we did was we'd say, ask a question, and everyone would just blah 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 shout out the answers, right? She wasn't happy doing that. So we did a couple of things. First thing, we gave her the questions like an hour beforehand. Said, like, these are the questions we're going to ask. Simple questions. How do you think this has gone well in the last 2 weeks? What's one thing that we could improve, type things. Gave them to her an hour before so she could think about them. Second thing, to begin with, we didn't do it as a spoken exercise. We did it as a written exercise. So you do the little, the sort of retro things. We post-it notes and people write their ideas. And she felt safe doing that. And then over time, she felt safer than speaking up. And nowadays, she just chats away like anybody else. But it took a while to build up her level of safety, feeling of
mhm.
safety within the team. Yeah, things like
Yeah.
that.
Okay. That's cool. Um, so in 2022, you transitioned from being a CEO to sharing your insights and experiences with the world.
Yep.
Um, sorry, let me read that again. I made a mistake.
Okay. Okay.
In 2022, you transitioned from being a CEO and you started something new. And so you went into the field of sharing your insights and experiences with the world. That must have been a significant shift. What prompted this decision, and what impact do you hope to have through sharing your story?
Okay, it's a really nice little story. I remember the moment exactly when I decided to step down as to, well, I needed to change. My I've got two daughters, one of them's 16, one of them's 14. And 2 years ago, I was just sat on we got a little sofa in our kitchen, and I was sat there just doing some work, and they came in from school, and my eldest came and said, "Oh, I've only got 4 more summers with you." And then she walked off, and that was like, "Oh my God, where did this time go? I've only got 4 more summer holidays with my daughter." It was actually 5. She got her maths wrong, but anyway. Um, and the thing is, we'd always planned to have a gap year with them. Take, one of those sort of those gap years with the families where you travel the world. It never happened. And then I suddenly realized I'm going to miss it. If I don't do something about this, I'm going to miss those summers. I'm going to not be able to do that traveling. So I decided I wanted to spend some more time with my family. And we worked out I couldn't stay on as CEO and have 8 weeks summer holiday. It just wouldn't work. It would be unfair on everyone. So over 6 months, we transitioned, and I handed over the role of the CEO. It was difficult. It's really difficult. I did for the first year. I found it tricky having run your own company for 8 years and then having no control of it. That was, yeah, hard. But I'm really enjoying what I'm doing now. Yeah, yeah. I'm just
So can you
sharing that.
tell us a little bit about what you're doing now?
Yeah, so this was 2 years ago. First year, basically, I was spending working out what we'd done over the last 8 years, just writing it down. I started writing a book and then realized, but just getting all my ideas. And then during last year, lots of people were coming to me and asking to come on podcasts and come and talk to their companies and go into schools and help them. And so I did that voluntarily for last year. And then since about November last year, I've now been doing it sort of more formally. And now I go and help companies, show them how to make their teams happier, and why it's so important,
Hmm.
why it's really important. It's not just I want to make my team happier because it is okay. It's the right thing to do. I fundamentally believe it. You should be doing it. But it also will just make you a better company. Happier employees just will
Yeah.
do better work. Full
And I would
stop.
assume
Yeah.
it also helps with retention, right?
Oh, massively. Yeah, 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 massively. And attraction as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So while you're doing this consulting with
Mhm.
companies, what was the number one thing that you found that was a pattern between each one that they were doing that made their team unhappy?
Do you know what? It is completely different in
Really?
every single company. Yeah, completely different. Yeah. So I work with a charity, and they have obviously massively high sense of purpose in all their staff. There's no problem with that. They send some of their staff onto front line to help in war zones and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But they had a high staff turnover, and they were trying to work out what it was. And in that case, we found it was they felt no autonomy. Their staff felt that they had no control over their lives
Oh,
because because suddenly a war would break out, and they had to be available 24/7 as well, just in case. So they couldn't go out for a meal with their wife and turn their phone off. They had to leave their phone on and be on alert the whole time. And that was so we came up with some solutions for that. And then other places there's no sense of community. Other places their team didn't feel safe. It's different. I haven't found there's common things, but nothing that just jumps out. No.
okay.
Yeah.
With the rise of remote work
Yep.
and distributed teams,
Yep.
how can companies effectively maintain focus on team happiness when employees are not physically together?
Yeah. So it's more difficult, right? The first thing it's more difficult, but you can do it. You just have to be more intentional about it. You have to realize that some of the things that just naturally happen in the office don't happen remotely. Okay,
Hmm.
so in the office, you arrive and you might go for a cup of coffee or a cup of tea with someone and just chat with them for a bit and build up that personal bond. At, when you're remote working, you never do that. There's so much focus on being productive the whole time. Can you imagine being a remote work and then just sending a Zoom call to someone and going, "Oh, look, do you want a quick chat about the football last night?" You just wouldn't do it, would you? No. You
It's
just
not going
wouldn't
to
do it.
work.
Exactly. So you have to be more intentional about it. So there's a few little tricks you can do. Things like setting up like chat channels for certain sort of activities. So we had a movie channel. People would chat about the movies or Netflix or something like that. One of the things that I like is for Zoom meetings, you open it 10 minutes early and then people join it 10 minutes early. And that 10 minutes is exclusively for non-work stuff. And people just chat. And that's really nice. Or leave it open 10 minutes afterwards. Little things like that. But you have to be intentional about it and you have to be really aware that you need to do something about it. Yeah. Loneliness is a
Found
bad thing.
so I just want to like I found during COVID our whole team was working from home,
Yeah.
and we are a very client facing company. So although we are in IT tech as well, but
Cool.
when we decided that we wanted everybody back just because working from home was really difficult, it had a toll on the business, on our clients, and everyone was really happy to come back, believe it or
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Everyone was sort of bored of being at home. They were struggling with loneliness. But you always have the number of people that prefer to work from home. But I
Mhm.
found during COVID, like we would try to have like socials and people felt like they would join because they were being forced to.
Yeah.
Although we were like, oh, we're gonna have like a social, everyone have a drink and we're just gonna chat. People didn't really want to do it. They just
No.
wanted to be isolated by themselves. And then we would do the same thing, start Zoom meetings early, and everyone was just like, why am I here so early? I could have been doing something else. So it's
Yeah.
like I find that and even now, people who ask like, can I work from home? I'm always thinking like, how can I make this person feel engaged in the culture and like they're part of being here every day because they're so isolated. And I just don't know, like some of the things that you said, like how can you really make that work when I feel like people are just in their own heads. They just like being in front of a computer and having to see someone like this. I think when you're working from home is a lot of work. I just find that people don't want to do it
Yeah. Do you know what? I
even
have
if
this
it is fun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have this conversation with people all the time, and nobody has found the solution, right?
Okay.
Because yeah, there isn't. I don't think there is a solution. Like we would love our team to come back to the office. They usually come in about once a week.
Hmm.
We would love them to come in more than that, just because they enjoy it, and they all when they come in, they go, "Oh, I need to do this more often. I've had a really good day today."
Hmm.
But if once you start making people come into the office without a good reason, then they feel that you're taking away their sense of autonomy. So someone, I think it was Simon Sinek or Malcolm Clark, one of them said it's a bit like giving a 17-year-old their driving license and then taking it away from them because you think they're not they're not
Not really.
they're not safe enough. Yeah. And so it's difficult. And I think you've just got to speak to people. And one of the things that I was reading the other day is give them a reason to come into the office so they understand
Mm,
why it's there. Run some training days, have your meeting. One thing you definitely should not do, this is a big no-no, is get them to come into the office and then have a Zoom call, right?
right,
Because
right.
then, yeah, that's like, well, what's the point of me coming in if you're now making me have a Zoom call with someone else? Yeah, could have
Yeah.
done this from home.
I mean, I don't feel like I've had a difficult time getting people back. People wanted
Mm.
to come back.
That's good. That's really good.
Yeah, like people are like, yeah, I'm happy to be here. And when we hire, we always tell people right away, we're not a work from home company for these reasons. And people are
Yeah,
like, yeah, I don't want to work from home.
yeah,
I feel like people are ready to be back and we're
yeah.
back 100%. We haven't had any issues. Our
Okay.
biggest issue was people working from home. Like
Yeah,
when they're here, they're engaged, they're going out for coffees, they're going out for lunch, they're playing
yeah,
football, they're more engaged. But when they were at home, just asking them to get on a social Zoom where we're all just going to chill a little bit, that was difficult because
yeah,
they were just in their own world. So for
yeah.
companies that are still working from home and having those struggles, what's your advice on how they what can they do?
The honest answer is I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Because I mean, I feel like working from home is like the new normal.
Yeah.
But then does that mean that people that are working from home, they're they're just working and now they're becoming more isolated? And is that going to have a bigger effect on people's mental health?
Yes, definitely. That is definitely going to happen, right? And all the research is pointing that way.
So that's not
But
necessarily a great thing.
no, it's not a great thing. In my point of view, fully remote work is not a good thing. I think hybrid work is probably the best
Mm,
because when you work from home, you are actually more productive doing certain tasks, like that deep task where you require 2 or 3 hours of solid focusing. Yeah, you're better doing those at home. And in
yeah.
my opinion, a mixture is probably the best. Um, but convince people think they know themselves better, and telling them that they're wrong is a really difficult thing to do. So if you tell someone you're actually going to be better off coming into the office,
Mm,
they go, "How do you know? You don't know me." It's
right.
it's uh, it's a really tricky one. Really, really
Yeah.
tricky. Yeah.
I just feel like people are, because they're at home and they're so isolated
Mhm.
and asking them to come back, like they're just becoming more and more uncomfortable with being around people. And we already struggle with the younger generation of being on their
Yeah.
phones all the time and using
Yeah.
technology. And now we're making people work from home where they're in front of a screen all the time and they're not having real life interactions. They're not building
Yeah.
friendships in the workplace. Like, what about that, the younger generation that's going to get into the workforce where it's all work from home? How are they going to build relationships and have the interactions and the common sense when that you build up from, working in an environment where you're around people physically?
Yeah. I totally agree with you. Met my wife at work. I've been married for 20 years. So
There you go. Yeah.
yeah, my best friends I met at work. So and it does make me sad
Mhm.
that people, if you're fully remote, you won't have these opportunities. But yeah, I don't, the world has changed. I don't think we're going to change. However much we believe in and we're passionate about, I just don't think we're going to change it. We just have to do the best with what we've got, I think, and just make it as good as possible and I think even if you are fully remote, at least once a month, get your team into the office once a month, get them
Right.
to go somewhere and build those friendships and those bonds. It's so important. They'll
Yeah.
feel a lot more connected to your company.
And
Yeah.
maybe they'll want to slowly start coming back and maybe even coming in more often.
Yeah, maybe, but I wouldn't hold your breath.
Okay, so
Yeah.
before we wrap up, if you could leave our listeners with one thought-provoking question to ponder regarding workplace happiness, what would it be?
Wow. I think, yeah, psychological safety. If if you're interested in this, just go and there's a few podcasts on it. There's a TED talk by Amy Edmondson. She's like the person who originally coined the idea.
Hmm.
Read up about it. It is fascinating. It will change the way you think about how to run your company. It doesn't take long to understand it, but
Okay,
once you do understand it, you'll think, okay, that's why that works. That's why that was a problem. That's why this team works and that team doesn't. Yeah, it'll be a game changer. It totally changed the way I thought about the workplace when I found out about it 10 years ago. Yeah,
interesting. We'll definitely
yeah.
have to take a listen. Now I'm interested.
Yeah.
Richard, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey and all of your wisdom with us. I hope our audience got some wonderful takeaways from this. And again, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in today. I hope you gained valuable insights into the power of prioritizing happiness in the workplace and its effect on your team and business. To our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery and inspiration. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform, Tenacity with Sonia C. Join our community on social media, Techies Sonia C. I would love to hear from you. Leave a review and tell me what topics you'd like me to explore in future episodes. Remember, the future belongs to those who embrace change with innovation and tenacity. Keep striving, keep innovating, and most importantly, stay tenacious in your pursuits. Thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to bringing you more inspiring conversations in our upcoming episodes. This is Sonia signing off, but as always, remember to chase your dreams with tenacity.